Good morning. This is Laura Jaramillo with the City of Grants, and I have our Public Works Director Mark Teshima and our Projects Director Don Jaramillo. We'd like to share some topics with you about what's going on at the city. I'm going to start out talking about one of our new ordinances that we're working on, and we have been for about the last 6 months, but we're trying to implement a vacant building ordinance. It went before City Council this past Monday for a vote, and they decided to table it because there were some concerns if it would be in conflict with some specific county ordinances. So we're doing a little research, but a vacant building ordinance that we're proposing would put some stipulations on any vacant buildings in our downtown areas. So this would cover Santa Fe Avenue and First Street. What it would require would be any building that comes vacant, the owner would have to register the building, and then they would have to keep it in good shape. And so basically keep it boarded up so that it doesn't have broken windows, it doesn't have any places that any individuals could go in or animals. And then they would need to keep the grounds in good shape, cutting weeds, keeping anything that might be hazardous picked up. So they would also register each year, and the registration fee would be around $150 the first year and then $100 thereafter each year. The purpose of the vacant building ordinance is to improve the appearance of downtown, because we believe this impacts our economic development and growth and the appeal of people wanting to come and visit Grants or come and move to Grants. It basically is, the registration fees are trying to implement something that might help be a deterrent for people keeping buildings vacant and letting them sit that way for years. If you have to pay a fee to register each year, then possibly we would be more motivated to get those buildings filled. So we'll be doing a little bit more work on that and hopefully get the City Council to pass that very soon. The other initiative we've been working on the last probably 6 or 7 months is our outdoor recreation project. We've been working with a local team that's countywide as well as a national team that is coming in and helping us. They're working with 10 communities across the United States. And we're looking at developing a plan on how we can promote our outdoor amenities. We have many wonderful things for citizens and visitors to do in the outdoors, such as biking, hiking, fishing, hunting, all those kinds of things that we feel like should be expounded on and promoted. This is part of our economic development strategy. So soon we're going to be having some workshops to invite the public to give us feedback. Our Facebook page will be putting out survey questions one at a time, asking for your input, so please watch for those and help give us some feedback on what you want to see happen in regards to outdoor adventure. The next thing I wanted to talk about was the governor's office and the state of New Mexico is going to be doling out some federal funds here really soon. Those funds are going to be for government entities and for small businesses. So the City of Grants, the Village of Milan, and Cibola County are going to work as a team to apply for dollars for our community, and then we will work to make those dollars available. I believe there will be applications that small businesses can put in to ask for support. Most of this is going to be related to COVID. What have been your hardships, your damages related to your businesses having to close down or not have as much traffic as you typically have had. So please watch for that, and we're hoping to help our community with these state and federal dollars. We've been working on budgets lately, and of course we're in hard economic times, and we anticipate that the economic downfall is going to continue into this next fiscal year. So some of our projects that we've been doing over the last few years, you might not see quite as much activity as far as city-led construction and city-led projects, because we're going to be operating conservatively to make sure that we maintain a healthy reserve in the bank. But we are trying to, if positions, city staff positions come open, wherever possible, we're trying to freeze those positions and do with less staff and less materials so that we can weather the economic storm. I'm going to turn it over to Donald now, and he will share some of our projects.
I want to start off first with the projects that are near completion. We've got the wastewater treatment plant, the Riverwalk Trail, Jefferson Avenue, and we recently completed 2nd Street. So the wastewater treatment plant, I believe we have a final walkthrough here in several weeks. That was a $15 million project. Anyway, the end result is great. The effluent, which is basically the end of the water that comes to the ponds to water the grass here at the golf course, is qualified now. It was in violation for several years, which was the result of the new wastewater treatment plant. So anyway, it's worked out good. Everything's working fine. Now, it wasn't a project that didn't have any mishaps. Of course, a $50 million project, you're going to run into some issues, but anyway, we're close to completion on that project. The Riverwalk Trail, it has been a long-standing project. I see a lot of people enjoying it now. It's complete out here, but it's not complete in regard to the paperwork. That is about a $600,000 project. There was some federal funds that assisted in that project. I believe it was federal and state funds. Anyway, we're near completion on that one. On Jefferson Avenue, you'll see that we added a road on Jefferson between, I believe it's a 500 block. Anyway, that's a $2.5 million project. The end result was a sidewalk and a road and all that, but that was really a drainage project. The drainage in that area was, I think, a 6-inch pipe or something like that. I mean, it was kind of Mickey Mouse.
A shower drain.
Yeah, exactly, for all the water that, I guess the watershed from, I don't know what mesa that is over there where the G is at, oh, yeah. The water tank, a lot of the watershed comes down in that area. Anyway, there was a retention pond. That 6-inch pipe is now a 36-inch pipe, I believe. So anyway, we should not see much flooding in that area. I mean, everyone says 25-year, 50-year flood, 100-year. If you get a good flood, it's going to flood. I mean, that's the bottom line. But with the facilities there now, we should be able to withstand a 100-year flood, and that is significant, very significant. But it's not complete. That was phase 1. Like I said, it's near completion. We're going into phase 2, which is the Washington Bridge. I believe that's like the 7th bridge in 10 years, something like that. I know Mayor Hicks really focused on bridges and the drainage during his term in office, and still in office. And anyway, this is our 7th bridge, I believe, and the drainage system throughout town is much better than it's been in years past. You see when it rains real good, I mean, we have our little puddles here and there, but you don't see 1st Street and 2nd Street underwater like we used to. I remember a picture one time of a boat actually going in front of Allsup's on 1st Street.
I remember that.
So anyway, that one's near completion. The Riverwalk Trail near completion. Wastewater treatment plant is near completion. Now, and we finished 2nd Street. We're going into 1st Street. We should bid 1st Street here in a couple months, hopefully by September. That is probably one of the largest projects that we've done in the city in years. It's a $6 million project. Understand a lot of these big projects, they're not fully city funded. They're usually, in most cases, 75 state funding, 25 city, or sometimes 80-20. They kind of vary, but these larger projects, the reason you see them keep on going is because they're not just city funds. They are supported by the state, and in some cases, federal funds also. So 1st Street, we should break ground in about September, October, November, somewhere around there. I'm not going to give a specific time because you give a time and you're never right. But that's going to be a year-long project. And again, we are getting lights, we're getting a new road, we're getting a sidewalk, but really what triggered that project is drainage. Grants is basically built in a little swamp area. If you see the area by Mesa View, behind Mesa View, the way it looks swampy in that area, that's basically how Grants was back in the day throughout the area of Grants High School, 1st Street, 2nd Street. I mean, if you talk to the old timers, that's just how it was, and that's where town is at today, so thus all the drainage projects. So anyway, that's a year-long project. We're also getting ready. Oh, there's a ped bridge, I'm sorry. We broke ground on a walking bridge for the Grants High School where Washington Street crossed into the high school. We closed that road, and the reason we closed that road is so the high school could be fully secured. With that road closed, and they could fully enclose the campus, which they weren't able to do that before because the city street went right through the high school. In the old, I know it as South Campus, but anyway, we're building a pedestrian bridge there now. It's I believe a $1.2 million project, and no, I'm sorry, a $300,000 project. I get these projects mixed up.
Right.
And a very nice bridge. The same kind of sign that you see at the cemetery, that's a similar sign you will see on 2nd Street with the tag Grants High School. Very nice. It's good to see these good projects coming to our area. The Riverwalk Trail, this pedestrian sign, the cemetery sign look very nice. The trail along 2nd Street, I think that's real nice. It's nice to see these amenities in the city of Grants. So anyway, so that's the Ped Bridge, and then here soon in that same area we're going to concrete the channel from Monroe to close to the Rio San Jose, and that 4th bridge will go in to the PAC Center, to the high school. That's a $1.2 million project. We should break ground on that project in spring of next year. So we'll concrete the channel from Monroe, from the new bridge, the 4th and final bridge into the high school. From that bridge to the Rio will be concreted. The channel will get graded to its correct. Understand that channel. The reason you see standing water, and we get calls all the time, the water's just sitting there on the 2nd Street channel. While that channel is the grading is not correct. The bridges, everything there, because we have new items, and then with the old arroyo, it's not to grade yet. But once it gets to grade, then that channel should flow correctly. And that shed from the mountainside there should be handled adequately. And then let's see, right after 1st Street we have a 1st Street Phase 4, which like I said, these are drainage projects. A similar retention pond that you see behind the Baptist, I believe it's the Baptist church there on Jefferson Avenue, that was recently built. We'll have something similar there at the corner of Geis and Monroe, I believe. Geis and Monroe. The old Knights of Columbus building is what a lot of people know it as. Thankfully, the county, we done a transition between the county and the city. Well, not really a transition, it was given to us, but for the good of the community, because the result is in that area there will be a retention pond, which the water will be stored there momentarily, and then it'll be pumped to the Rio San Jose. Like I said, it's a drainage project, and all this should alleviate the flooding in that area. From there, I'm thinking of what other projects that we're applying for.
If you could talk a little bit about that drainage project and some of the challenges, because right in that same area you have the chlorinated plume. You've got all those monitoring wells that look like little round discs all over the place.
Okay, so good you bring up the chlorinated plume. The chlorinated plume, I believe is about 12 years in. Anyway, it's a 20-year project. So they have to monitor those wells for 20 years. Thankfully, and kind of like miraculously, because you see all them wells there, we're going to actually be able to construct 1st Street and the pump and pond station working around all those wells, which I think is amazing.
Right, because before we thought there was no way we were going to be able to.
Right. Well, the chlorinated plume has moved eastward, and it's much smaller, is what the data shows. which the reason they've allowed us to go ahead and move forward with the project.
A lot of the citizens have questioned along the way why we went partway down First Street and stopped and then started on Second, but it was because of that chlorinated plume
Right.
that we were told we couldn't do any digging in that area or construction very deep. So,
Right.
so now we're at a point where we can finish First Street, and so that's wonderful.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, we got the clearance for to move forward with the project, and we'll stay out of the chlorinated plume area. We did recently get approved for a $5 million water improvement project throughout, or actually there's a phase one. It's one of the oldest parts of town. We all know it as Aloma. It's the west side of town. That's where a lot of the oldest infrastructure is at, water and wastewater. So we got $5 million from the USDA for water and $5 million from wastewater. One of the big challenges that we've been having at the city, and it's less today, I think, but you know, we were always reacting to these breaks. You know, water break here, water break there, and you know, it's nice to have the funds to be able to react, but eventually those funds are going to be run out. You got to have a long-term plan. So Laura and I sat down and the mayor, and anyway, we came up with some options, and we ended up going toward a USDA opportunity, of which it's about a 65% loan, 35% grant. But you move into other phases, because this is just phase one, which is 10 million, 5 million water, 5 million wastewater. But the next phases we could go into 10 million, 15 million, something like that. And from what we understand, speaking to the USDA and our on-call engineer, is that as you move to other phases, it shows the leverage and the seriousness that the city has in the project. So thus your next phase, you may get a 50-50 or a 40-60 rather than a 65-35 loan grant. So anyway, our plan is to move into other phases with this. I mean, reality is I've learned that, and which I think the city's administration is doing, is we're looking ahead. You know, we're looking ahead at 10, 20, 30 years from now. We may not be around, but our kids are going to be around, and it'd be nice that they are given or supplied with adequate infrastructure during their time. So anyway, that's all I got for now, unless
I just want to talk a little bit about what the city has taken on. There's a few different projects that the city has endeavored. One of them is paving our own streets. I want to talk about last summer. We did High Street over by St. Teresa. As many of you know, and probably drive on, that there was obviously a colossal failure. So part of the problem with doing some of the work yourself is you take on some of this risk, this burden of risk, that if things don't work out, then who takes the responsibility? If you hire a contractor and an engineer, you have some recourse if something goes wrong. But if you pay for it with cash and it fails, then you get to eat it. And so as a city, we've taken a lot of these things into consideration. It's very challenging, obviously, to build your own road. But why we failed on the St. Teresa project is what led into the success on the High Street project over by the Riverwalk. There's three major things we changed. One is any subgrade that had failed from the previous road, we completely dug it out as deep as we needed. Some places we dug 36 inches down to get all of that ugly subgrade out, replace it, and then compact it correctly. The second thing we did is we got a larger roller. The roller we have at our shop is it's a great finishing roller, but it just doesn't have the weight that some of these other commercial products have. So we rented a larger roller. Obviously that has its own expense associated with it. And the final thing we did is we tested our compaction before and after. And so we know what our percent of compaction is. We know that High Street Road's going to be there for a very long time. And the quality, you could see the improvement as the guys went along. So I'm very proud of the city crew, and Laura alluded to the fact we'll be slowing down on paving our own streets. If we come across a windfall, if there's any generous donors out there that want to, no, I'm joking. But realistically, we're driven by GRT, and so as long as there's a deficit in the GRT, we have to go accordingly. And so we see the needs in the community. Davis to Anderman, Mrs. Pohl lived on that road. I fought for a long time to finally get her water line fixed. Bless her heart, she's in heaven. But we got her water line fixed, but she wasn't able to see her road paved. And so I'd love to see that road paved. There's also guys from Adams to Monroe, and we see these things. We see Sargent, and it's not that we're lazy or we're blind to the situation. It's simply a financial crunch that we're going to get through. We're a very strong community. We've been through these things before. We've been through the mines. We've been through slowdowns. And this is nothing new for the city of Grants. For the rest of the nation, maybe they're in uncomfortable waters, but I think we'll be fine. And so when things begin to pick back up, when that GRT gets going, hopefully we'll get to see some paving get going. It's not like the equipment's going anywhere. It's still in the yard. The guys are still here. We're still working, and so we'll get back at it when we can, for sure. Changeover from the park. So some of you might know that Jacobs is no longer taking care of the parks. What some of you might not know is they're no longer taking care of the sewer or the lift stations in town. So what's happening is the city of Grants has hired a couple of parks employees. They've taken on a cemetery guy, and so we're doing those ourselves. The transition, I gotta admit, it was a little rough at first, but I feel like we've got a handle on things. On top of that, we were in a stage 1 drought, and not having any rain certainly is not fun for the parks. And so we had some dry spots, we had some busted sprinklers. So as we got through those issues, I think we're at the 1st of August soon, and it should be looking much greener now. And so we'll keep it up. If you guys have any problems, please get with the Public Works office. We're located at the Code Enforcement Building. Give us a call, shoot me an email, publicworks@grantsnm.gov, and we'll certainly address it.
Yeah, Mark, will you tell them a little bit about our FOG program?
Oh, FOG, yes. So FOG is fats, oils, and grease. What that is at the residential level, we used to have a little coffee can where we'd scoop some of our old oil or grease into, and then you'd put the lid on and throw it away when it got full. So that's how we kind of handle things on the residential side. It's best not to put that stuff into your sink, down the drain, because 1, it'll clog your P-traps, and 2, it gets out into the system and it builds up in manholes, it tears down pumps in the lift stations, and so it's really detrimental. That's on the residential side. Where an issue has begun to pop up is on the commercial side. A lot of times you'll see those big, large, stinky dumpsters. Those aren't regular dumpsters. That's where their FOG goes, their fats, oils, and greases. So if commercial businesses are using their FOG equipment correctly, that stuff stays out of the sewer system. And it helps everyone out. It cuts down municipal costs, and everyone lives a happy life. Unfortunately, this doesn't always happen. So what we've done at the Code Enforcement Office is we've started a FOG enforcement program. And so from time to time, you'll see Shannon, Robert Windhorse, they'll pop in at businesses and they'll ask them a few questions as to when's the last time they've had their grease traps cleaned out, how often are they dumping their canisters, those sorts of things. And you're going to see more and more regular visits. Why? We're just making sure everyone's being honest about their FOG participation. If everyone does their part, then it means longer life and less tax dollars going towards things like lift station pumps, going towards things like rebuilding manholes, because that fog, it really is that detrimental to our system.
I forgot to mention three things actually. Number one, the Washington Avenue Bridge is due to be complete in November. So that's crucial just because it's one of the only few crossings across the Arroyo. Otherwise you got to go all the way around. So November is when Washington Avenue Bridge is expected to be complete. The next phase of that project I forgot to mention was Washington Avenue Street, the 500 block, the same as Jefferson, but on the other side. We finished Jefferson, Washington. We're applying for funds there, CDBG Community Development Block Grant. There's an application there, and we have some DOT applications for that next phase. We are with the understanding that there will be a new elementary school here in several years in that same area. I guess Mesa View is going to be replaced. And then the next thing is well number 3, I forgot. That's our primary well. It has some issues. You don't want your primary well to have issues, because we do have a backup well, but it's not as efficient. Well number 3 will start construction. A new well number 3 will start construction in winter, and it'll be complete in the winter time, probably January, February, somewhere around there. And that one I think that's a $1.6 million project, and it's a 40-60 loan grant with the Water Trust Board.
As always, we'd like to encourage citizens to call, stop by. We appreciate your feedback. We're here to serve you, and we would love to hear your ideas that you have to improve our community. So stop by, give us a call anytime that you see something that you would like for us to do in our community. Thank you.